Coming of age. While Wesley Crusher takes a Starfleet Academy entrance exam, Captain Picard and the Enterprise are subjected to an investigation by Starfleet. So that opening where Wesley's talking to his friend,
Jake,
who did not get into the Academy entrance exam. It seems like that's kind of where the episode's going, but Jake does not show up until way later.
I thought it was just going to be a little one-off thing just to introduce the idea of the test and everything.
Right.
But the fact that he does come in later in the episode, I think it's good that they did introduce him.
Okay, you sold me on that. I give it an A+. Okay, Wesley has a really dumb haircut in this episode.
Yeah, he does.
He looks like he's going for an Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Is that the impression you got from that?
Sticking up in the front, so short.
I thought it was trying to make him look more like a kid. It's a school kind of episode in that sense.
Is his hair back to normal in the next one? I don't know. I'm not going to go look it up, even though it's literally right in front of me. So Wesley's going to test to try and get into the Academy. This episode also marks the beginning of Conspiracy.
Yes, which is an episode that we're looking forward to.
The building Wesley's taking his test at looks like a StarCraft building. It even has a little spinning globe thing. Wesley introduces himself to the other applicants. There's Mordok the Menzite. Mordok sounds like a Skeletor villain.
Yeah.
And there's a Vulcan girl, and then there's a human girl who Wesley wants another kind of test.
I was honestly kind of disappointed that they didn't do more with her. I like Mordok's breathing apparatus. I don't know what it's supposed to be doing, but I like it. Maybe it's cooling the air, maybe it's moisturizing the air, maybe he's got to breathe some other kind of gas mixture, but it's a cool idea. I don't like Mordok's giant pinkies. Did you notice his giant pinkies?
No.
Like somebody transplanted thumbs onto his hands where his pinkies belong.
Wesley's nervous about the psych test, and he's in the holodeck trying to think of things to create in the holodeck that scare him. And Worf comes in, and Wesley says, I don't know what I should make. And he says some kind of alien rats, and then he says lightning storms. What are you, 5?
I thought that was funny at first, but being that he's in space all the time, maybe his idea of a lightning storm is way worse than what we would think of.
We did get a little insight into Worf. I did like that.
Yeah, it was very brief, but it was a good little moment.
It's too bad we never see him eat. I know when they're sitting all together, he probably uses silverware, but when he's by himself and he replicates some jalapeno pizza, Pro just tears into that sucker.
Yeah, I imagine him making an entire animal and specifically tearing off the parts that he wants and recycling the rest.
Okay, anyway. When they're doing the Rubik's Cube test, and Wesley says,
Don't fight it. Relax into it and let it come by itself.
What the hell is he talking about? You know, when he said that, it's probably good they didn't show that girl, because she was probably thinking, I want you to feel your way into me, Wesley.
Yeah, Wesley's an idiot for not following up on that.
So Wesley takes his psych test, he's sitting in a room, and then he hears a bunch of explosions, and then he goes to an environmental lab, I think, and it's destroyed, and there are 2 people. One guy's trapped under a pipe, and one guy's just cowering in the corner. So Wesley has to choose to save one of them. So he saves the guy under the pipe, so he sacrifices the other guy, and that's the test.
He has to act, basically, in this situation. I don't think it was whether he saved one or the other. I think it was just whether he overcame his own fear and made some kind of choice.
Because from his psych profile, they saw that Picard made a choice that ended up killing Wesley's father.
When Wesley leaves the psych test room, when he hears whatever's going on outside and he goes to investigate, there's a shot of him going through the hallways, and you get a pretty good sense of a large building. And there's one shot where you can see down a hallway, and the hallway is a painting. And it's really short. Actually, even the doors leading outside are a painting. And I thought it was cool. It doesn't look great when you see it, but you barely see it in the shot. And I thought it was a pretty effective way to make it look like the building is a lot bigger than it actually is.
Picard and Wes have a good heart-to-heart at the end, where Picard reveals that he failed the Academy entrance exam the first time, and Wesley can't believe it, but if I were there, what I wouldn't be able to believe is him wearing that dress. You know, Wesley, I wore a dress once.
You?
So Admiral Quinn shows up with Commander Remick, and he says he's got to speak to Picard alone, and things are kind of shaky. Commander Remick is a great jerk.
I called him Kaczynski number 2.
But see, Kaczynski had no clue what he was doing. Remick knows what he's doing.
That's true.
He's an interrogative bastard. I do like how Remick, when he's interrogating everybody, he brings up how inadequate they've all been in previous episodes. A lot of the things we've actually talked about.
I really like all the references to the previous episodes that they bring in here. It's not something they really do a lot in the show, at least up to this point, and it really helps tie things together a lot.
Just how did this contaminant get aboard the ship?
How you feel serving with a man who is responsible for the death of your husband.
You violated the prime directive of the Edo. You deliberately interfered with their laws. So he handed it over to Kaczynski, who took the entire crew to the edge of the universe. Not even the Ferengi incident aboard his old starship, the Stargazer?
The way everybody behaves when they're being interrogated is way overdone. They exaggerate so much that they're upset about all these questions being asked when really they should just cooperate and answer the questions. And Riker in particular is so upset, and it's so over the top because he questions whether he's the one being investigated at first, and it makes you wonder what he's hiding because he's clearly hiding something. And we know what it is because we've seen him on the holodeck a little bit. But it's really funny seeing his reactions and just thinking about why Riker is so worried about everything. When Riker is talking to Remick and Remick asks him to sit down, it's the first time in the show that Riker does the step over the chair thing, and it seems like such a power move to try to intimidate Remick right at that moment.
I would be intimidated.
They don't say exactly what they're investigating in the first place, just that there's something wrong, that it needs to be kept secret for whatever reason, but they're going to try to find out, in particular, if Picard is actually suited for his position.
So Remick's report is he can't find anything wrong, which is hard to believe because he interrogated all of them and we heard them admit there were a bunch of things they did wrong. He says the only thing he found was a casual familiarity among the bridge crew. It's like a sense of family when Worf in this specific episode said he doesn't like interacting with other people. So it turns out that Quinn wants Picard to take over the Academy.
He's kind of testing whether Picard is suited for that role.
Because he needs people he can trust, which makes us as viewers question why he needs people he can trust around him, which we'll find out later.
I think the mystery behind all that works in this episode. We don't need to know exactly what's going on right now, and it helps to build up that suspense in a way that actually works.
And this is the first time they're going to do that, connect one episode to an episode much later.
Yeah, and even the fact that it connects to so many earlier episodes. This episode does a really good job of creating a sense of continuity and coherency with everything.
I want to talk about Jake departing the Enterprise. So Jake, from the opening, leaves the Enterprise because he feels he's a failure. He doesn't pilot the shuttle correctly, and he ends up going into the atmosphere of a planet, which makes sense because he failed entering the Academy entrance exam. He's dumb. So they made the right choice in saying nope. And he said,
Only 32 points.
it was probably out of 33. So Picard saves him by telling him what to do, and Remick is very impressed. Remick even does a fist pump.
Yeah.
And goes, yeah! Yeah! Like it's a 80s movie at the end.
I was thinking like Ninja Turtles 2.
Coming of age. Give me an overall.
So this episode had two really strong separate plots. They don't really come together that much except when Wesley's talking to Picard about the test, but I thought they both were handled really well. They were both fleshed out just the right amount. They never got boring, and they weren't necessarily predictable either. I mean, Wesley doesn't pass his test, which is kind of what I think you would expect. I thought it was a really good episode overall. I would say a B+.
Good pacing, good writing. The plots do not need to come together, whereas in some episodes I felt like they did. Characters were interesting, even though they're just one-off characters. It was strong. I enjoyed it. I give it a solid B. Save that plus for the ones I really like.